Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today. My name is Chelsea Harville, and I'm the Assistant Director for Save the Children for Kentucky Programs. Save the Children believes that every child deserves a future. We strive to give children a healthy start in life, the opportunity to learn, and protection from harm. Because of our mission, we are a very proud sponsor of Children's Advocacy Week. We thank all of you for joining us this morning for the Legislator question and answer session. We're looking so forward to hearing from Senator Carroll and Representative Heavrin, which are leaders of the Families and Children Committee. This committee is concerned with many of the challenges that face the families and children that we serve, including interactions with the child welfare system and family supports like childcare. Children count on state leaders to prioritize them in their decisions. I will now turn it over to Dr. Terry Brooks to frame today's discussion.
Great, thank you so much, and we certainly appreciate the support of Save the Children, you know that. Well, some of you already have joined us once because we started today with a great discussion from Senator Givens and Representative Timoney on the Race and Opportunity Committee. And today, as you can see from the folks joining, we have a huge crowd to hear from two real champions for kids, Representative Heavrin and Senator Carroll. Representative Heavrin is relatively new to the General Assembly, and I don't know if you have seen somebody like take off like a rocket ship, but she is taken off like a rocket ship. So she was Senator Givens' partner on that commission previously as co-chair. She's now moved, as was referenced, to chairing the really important Family and Children Committee in the House. Last year, she worked on areas ranging from early childhood initiatives to some equity questions. And so we're really happy to have her on. Senator Carroll already knows this, but there's just not anyone who I appreciate more than Danny Carroll. And the reason is that Senator Carroll has that rare capacity to work both around principles and pragmatism. So he understands the issues at hand. But what I really appreciate is he also has that capacity to make it hunt, to get things done in Frankfurt. And he also is such a great source of counsel for me personally and for KYA. So Representative and Senator, we appreciate you being here. Getting ready to kick this off to my colleague, Dr. Vanover. You know, I will say one interesting thing, and I don't know if either of the chairs have thought about this. We were really just talking about this before the broadcast started. Your committees are unique because I think every other committee is about something: health, education, justice. Your committee is named for people. So what more can you say? They are huge committees. They are vital committees. And what better way to kick off Children's Advocacy Week than talking to the chairs of the Family and Children Committees. So Sarah, take it away.
Thank you very much, Terry. My name is Dr. Samara Vanover, and I'm a Policy and Research Director for KYA. And I usually focus specifically on early childhood, but I'm very excited about this committee and all the supports that it's going to offer to our young children as well as their families. Now, this is a brand new committee. Previously, we had health services and child and family services combined, and now we have the Families and Children Committee. And so I'd like to ask you both, can you briefly describe the overall focus of this new committee?
Samara, you want to start?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you all. Sorry I was running late. That's kind of just typical me. I wish I could say it's different. Frankfurt's a weird world. Thanks for joining us, though. We greatly appreciate it. And thanks for having Senator Carroll and I. We've enjoyed doing these panels. We had one last week, too. You know, I think the biggest thing, you know, Sarah, is as silly as it is to say, we're going to be focusing on families and children. And I see where Queen, I think Tania, posted in there, how can you say you support children? and a few other things. But I think that's exactly the focus of the majority, is that we see this as an issue. And unless we start having the conversations, this is such a big issue in Kentucky. We have our own committee about it now. And so, things take progress. And so I'm so excited. You're going to see a lot from both of us, I think, in the House and the Senate, having these conversations of just educating our members on these programs. A lot of times I think in Frankfort, we sit and say, oh, this needs to be fixed, but we might not know a lot about it. And so Senator Carroll and I, we've both talked about making sure that we have the right education to our members so we can start making these policy decisions for families and children across Kentucky, and making sure that they have the best life that they can live here in the Commonwealth. Now, I'm going to say we're all going to have different philosophical beliefs in how we achieve it, but I think that our end goal will all be the same, and it's to make Kentucky the best place to live and raise your family. And so that's going to include conversations on childcare, on the benefits cliff, on waivers, on different social programs that we have. And they're going to be really difficult conversations because they're both very emotionally charged, but it's going to be worth it when we can have the conversations.
Thank you, Representative Heavrin. Senator Carroll, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, and Terry, you really put that in perspective. I guess I've really not thought about the committee that way, and that it directs us to address issues with a specific populations. And my excitement about this is my career, throughout my career, whether it was in law enforcement or being in CEO of Eastern Seals, West Kentucky, with all the programs we offer there, from child care for medically fragile kids, therapies, all the waiver services. So in my experience, I've touched just about every area that we will be working on through this committee. And that is exciting. There's a lot of work to do. And, I working with Representative Heavrin, I've had the pleasure through the summer with the Child Care Task Force, and I've grown to have a great deal of respect for her. We communicate very well, and I look forward into jumping into these issues and really trying to prioritize and really get down into the weeds with some of these issues, and hear from those who are on the front lines of addressing many of these issues as we develop policy. And I don't want these just to be committee meetings. We do need to educate our members, but I hope soon we're going to start putting out some strong policy and some things that will really make a difference, really impact the lives that we have been tasked with affecting. And it's going to require all of us, all of you who are on this today, are stakeholders in this, and we're going to need your input in many different ways as we move forward.
So this is a short session. Obviously, it's not a budget session. We're starting part 2 now. And usually we do a lot of cleanup work, things like that during a short session. I'm curious if you all have one goal, or if there's one thing that you would really like to see happen for the Families and Children Committee during this session, what that would be.
I can start off, Danny.
Go ahead.
So in the House, I think you're going to see legislation. Well, I don't think. I have a good feeling, wink. You're going to see legislation that looks like a joint resolution on the benefits cliff, and really getting some data on that from the cabinet. Talking a little bit about the calculator. Representative Dixon, he held a great task force during the interim on the benefits cliff. I think it's a very relevant conversation right now, especially with inflation and, the working wages have increased. And what does that look like? How do we help people get into the workforce, but not lose their benefits because of that? Once again, that's kind of like a philosophical thing, but continuing that conversation. And I think it's it's something that's very relevant. And I was in North Carolina speaking about House Bill 499, my child care bill from last session, and that was what I had the most questions on, was the benefit cliff. And so from the House, you'll see that. You'll also see a foster care toolkit coming down the pipeline from Representative Rebecca Raymer. Very excited about that, especially with the increase of foster care students in our school system. How can we make sure that teachers are best equipped with resources and tools to help them? No, this isn't going to be a mandate for any type of teacher requirement to continue to, it's not going to be like an hour that they've got to have, that's not like a credit or anything, but really each school system has a foster care liaison, and so the KDE will be required to create a toolkit that they can send out. Because I think we all have a lot of questions, especially if that wasn't our lived life experience. And so what can we do to better equip teachers for that if they have questions for their students? Of how can they meet them where they're at? So I think that's something you'll see in the House.
And what about the Senate, Senator Carroll?
In the Senate, for this session, I think we're going to spend a lot of time on the education component, from the adults with disability side, and also dealing with children with disabilities. I'll be filing some type of legislation that's going to start the process of moving us towards addressing the waiver waiting list, and at some point doing away with that list and ensuring that all those who need services are getting them. And that does include children in many cases with the waiver. So that's something specific to this session. And really from my perspective, I really want to start with abuse and neglect in the Commonwealth. I think I'd identify that in conversations that I've had as a priority, if not the priority, that we need to address, and really start looking into that and looking into how we can affect our statistics on that. And it's unacceptable in our state to be where we are. We are always in the top 5 in the country, and we need to make that a priority. We need to develop policies that are going to foster those numbers declining, and we can address that in a lot of different ways. But I want that to be a priority. Childcare, Sarah, we talk about that all the time, and Representative Heavrin and I have committed into the next interim that we're going to continue those talks in more of an informal manner. I think some of the things that have been put in place, many that you were responsible for, Sarah, I think they're working. I can tell you this, in our facility, and we are a pretty large facility, we are fully staffed for the first time that I can remember in my 13 years I've been there. And it's because of the policies that are in place that allow childcare for the workers there, and other issues, that the funding that has come in that has allowed us to increase wages. We've improved our benefits, and we're moving forward. So that's pretty exciting. And I think, we've seen a model that may very well be our future that works. And you throw in Representative Hevrin's legislation on 499, that's going to be another critical aspect. So those are the things that we're going to look at. And for me, I have a lot of meetings set up with all the different areas, the populations that we're tasked with, to learn as much as I can individually. A lot of this stuff, I know the surface, but I want to get down in the weeds and really understand the issues so we can move policy forward as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Of course, when we're talking about children with disabilities and childcare, that's my heartbeat. But one topic that you all have brought up is child maltreatment and our child welfare system. We know with issues like growing opioid epidemic and different circumstances, we have a lot of children in kinship care. We have a lot of children that are in foster care and out-of-home placements. And what do you all see as the committee's commitment to priorities surrounding child welfare? Samara, would you like to start again, Representative Heavrin?
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for calling me Samara. Sometimes I forget I'm a representative. And so when someone calls me representative, I'm like, who are they talking to? Just being vulnerable. I think that's going to be a huge priority, especially since the Child Welfare Committee was dissolved. The interim, it met during the interim. I don't know what the official title was. I think it'll be a huge priority. I mean, kids are our future, and we got to make sure. I think and this kind of goes to like my goal of just being a good human, or trying to be a good human, is letting kids know that they can get out of the cycles of generational poverty, or generational cycles that they found themselves in. And I always think about the picture, it goes around on Facebook sometimes, and it's like the match that went down, the match that's fallen down, and it shows how they've ended the generational cycle of whatever they've been given. And so I think child welfare is going to be a huge thing. I think it's, when Senator Carroll and I first met to talk about it after we became chairman, that was one of the things we talked about. And I think it's gonna be a big priority. I don't know where it's gonna lead, but it's something that it's on the forefront of our hearts.
Thank you. Senator Carroll, would you like to follow up on that?
Yeah, and I think what this committee will allow is for us to focus a great deal of time on these issues. And really that's the impetus on creating this committee, was to allow that to happen. It simply wasn't happening in health and welfare. And we touched the surface on child welfare many times, but we don't really get down into the understanding and how we can affect the various issues involved in this. And, a lot of this is learning to reach out to each individual community and putting more emphasis on each community in dealing with a lot of these issues. So I'm excited about the future and what we can do. And, and I think for all of you all as advocates for kids, I think you're going to have opportunities like never before to impact what's going on in this state through this committee. And again, I don't want this to be just meetings. I want what we do to be substantial. And I know Samara and I both agree on this. We want this to make a difference, and we want to see our numbers change. We want to see the lives change of our kids, and we want to support DCBS, Child Protective Services, and the jobs that they do, and working through adoption process, addressing those issues, foster care, all of the kids who are committed. There have been some issues in facilities that I'm sure you're all aware of, and addressing those programs, making sure kids have the treatment options that they need to get through the struggles that they have. So this covers a lot of different layers. We're not going to fix this overnight, but we have a path forward now, and I'm looking forward to working with you all to make those things happen.
So it looks like one of the first jobs that the committees will have is to review the KTAP regulations that are coming up in committee. Now, those regulations haven't been updated since 1995. So it's definitely time to get a look at them and see where they're going, particularly the way they could have an impact on families with kinship care. How do you all feel that the committee will help Kentucky safety net programs like KTAP and other safety nets as you move forward with your work?
Danny, do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, and I think it's just supporting these programs. I got and Samara, you may have gotten this too, an email from a lady, a grandmother, a couple of weeks ago, that was talking about her situation raising grandkids and the struggles that they have and the support that they needed. And it's hard for me sometimes. I come from a generation that family just took care of family, and you didn't have all of these discussions about the state helping, but it's a different world now. And the number of kids that are in these situations that rely on family to raise them is astounding. And that's going to continue to get worse. And we have to support these families to make sure that they're able to get through, make sure the kids have the opportunities that they need. And through the other support programs, we have to make sure that the investments are where they need to be, and that the funding is appropriate, and that the programs are being effective in what they do. And that's in the Senate, that's what we were supposed to hear that today, and we didn't have our meeting this morning, it being the first day, but we will hear that next Tuesday and have discussions on kinship and all the issues surrounding that, and review the new regulations.
Representative Heavrin, would you like to add anything?
No, I agree with Danny. I do want to answer. I'm trying to look at the questions too. I'm sure like there's a point we're going to answer those, but since time is like running slow, I think to add on to what Danny said though, Michelle says, realistically, how long do you expect to see changes actually occurring within educational structures and supports before changes and outcomes with children can be seen? You know, I'm going to say we're not in a rush to make a bunch of changes immediately, and I'll say that for the House. I'll let Danny decide. I think I can speak for him on that, but we really do want to educate and learn. And I think as people that work in these fields, like you would want that too. You don't want us just making a bunch of rash decisions. We really, it's so important when we're having these conversations to make decisions based on data and not emotions. And it's hard because this is a very emotional committee, right? We're talking about a lot of issues that have a lot of emotions, and you've got to be able to take it away from that. And that's something, it's a trait that I think we have to learn as legislators, because you've got to make sure it's good, sound policy. And a big part of that's just educating ourselves and educating our members to make sure they know what we're about to make policy decision changes on, because these are lives. This isn't, these are people's everyday lives. And so, with some of the regulations coming down the pipeline, personally, I still have a lot to learn. This is a new area of expertise for me. And so I welcome all of you all. If you all can be resources for us, we would greatly appreciate it. Share your stories. But also be able to provide good data to us of what changes need to be made and how it really does affect people. Because there's a difference in saying, oh, this is all happening, and then like, what are the numbers for that? And so I encourage each of you all in your respective areas to make sure to share data that you have and to be resources. But we greatly appreciate Dr. Brooks and Dr. Vanover. Thank you all for allowing us to have the opportunity to speak today.
We appreciate you being here so much. And as we leave, you knew I wouldn't not leave without, asking a question on childcare. This isn't going to be a big childcare year, but next year with a budget session, I know that childcare is going to come up. In the interim, is there any advice that you all have for the advocates on what we need to do to help educate, to help bring that data, to make sure that we are well informed for decision making in 2024?
I can start off. I think the biggest thing is talk to your legislator about it. That was the biggest thing when I was working on my child care bill last session, was having to go member to member and educate them on the cost of child care. Meet them where they're at. You are an advocate, and so don't expect legislators to meet you where you're at. And I know that kind of sounds harsh. Meet them where they're at so they can better understand. Because everyone has different life experience. And I'm so big on that. Everyone has had different life experiences. I grew up with a single mom. Not everyone else did, and I respect that. But so you've got to be able to share, hey, this is what's going on. Some people that we serve with up here, they might have had the opportunity where their children didn't have to do childcare. Maybe they were in a financial position that their wife could stay home. Maybe they were a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom. And so meet them where they're at, help provide information and be a tool. In areas like this, we want to become very emotional and be like, well, you're an idiot, or you're not understanding, you're a bigot. Give grace. I actually just shared that with the group when I was speaking to earlier. Give grace to people, because that's how you build relationships. And so if you can build relationships, they're going to rely on you. Because as soon as someone tells me I don't understand something, or they, I shut off. Like we all do, right? So I really encourage you, try to be empathetic. And sometimes it might not be meeting them in the middle of the road. You might have to give a little extra, but it'll be worth it in the end. And I've made some of my greatest relationships with people I completely don't agree with, but I respect them enough to call them and ask them, hey, I don't understand like where this is coming from. Can you give me a little more information? So build relationships over this next interim with your legislator.
Great information. And Senator Carroll, would you like to close out with adding anything?
Yeah, Sarah, and I think it's just for us during the next interim, we've got to pull together data and not just what we've done in Kentucky, but in other states. And there is some light in this. And I'm hearing of even in our part of the state in rural areas, centers starting to open up, entrepreneurs stepping forward. And And we just got to continue and really place a lot of emphasis on that. We've talked about investing into a promotional campaign throughout the state to support growth in childcare and to let people know the opportunities available. And we just need to make informed decisions as we move forward. We know that there's going to have to be a financial investment, and we really need to start looking in the weeds and what is a fair rate, or what is a fair supplemental pay that will allow these centers, especially the for-profits, to sustain and to grow. And those things that we really haven't gotten into yet, but those things are important, and making sure that with the workforce in childcare, the program with allowing those folks to be eligible for CCAP, making sure that's working properly and that those processes are working, and in addressing the workforce issue within childcare, and just expansion. And I just think that we have learned a lot the last few months that we can build on, and that is exciting. But it's just getting the right policy in place over long term, and the right investments in place. And I think we can make some things happen, and looking at making sure that public school is maximizing their ability with early childhood education, the private centers, the combination services, just a lot of good ideas out there that we can make a difference, and we can affect the workforce issues within the Commonwealth as we move forward. And really the same thing, but with the adult population with disabilities. If we can get these waiver lists done away with and get services for these folks, that's a whole population of workforce, of the caregivers, the parents of those individuals that can join the workforce also. So we can make some differences in various areas based on what we've learned, and move forward some good policy.
I want to thank you both so much for your time today, and good luck as the session starts off this afternoon. And we're looking forward to seeing how much these committees are going to do in this year and in upcoming sessions. So thank you again, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Very welcome. Appreciate all that you all do. Terry, thank you, my friend.